Hi guys, welcome back. Peter Pan, Chapter 10, The Neverbird. As you remember, we left off, Peter and the Lost Boys and Wendy had just had a battle with Captain Hook and his two pirates, Smee and Starkey. Let's find out what happened. Also remember, Peter got injured. Hook scratched him with his hook. Let's find out what happened. Out on the water, the Lost Boys had won their fight with Smee and Starkey, but they couldn't find Peter or Wendy or Hook. Taking the pirates' dinghy, they sailed it home, shouting for Peter and Wendy the entire time, but there was no response, except for an occasional mocking from the mermaids. They must be swimming or flying back, the boys concluded. Had they stayed in the lagoon, they might have soon heard two voices crying for help, Peter and Wendy. He, injured and she weak, had climbed back onto Marooner's Rock. As the water rose dangerously around him, they fell unconscious one right after the other. A mischievous mermaid pulled Wendy by her toe, trying to get her into the water. Feeling her slip from him, Peter woke up just in time to pull her back. Our rock is shrinking, he told her. Soon it will be gone. Let's go then, Wendy cried. We could swim or fly away. I can't do either, Peter replied. I have been injured. You go. But Wendy was too weak to make it on her own. The children put their hands over their eyes to shut out the sight of the rising water and prepared to meet their end. Just then, something brushed Peter's leg. It was light as a feather, and it seemed to be asking, "Can I help?" What luck! It was the tail of a kite which Michael had made a few days earlier, but then lost in the wind. Peter grabbed it and wrapped it around Wendy. Now you, Wendy cried. It can't fit both of us, Peter explained. Michael and Curly tried. Wendy clung to Peter, refusing to go without him, but he pushed her off the rock and away she flew. Peter was left all alone in the lagoon. The rock grew smaller and smaller. In the distance, the mermaids called sadly to the moon. Like any boy, Peter was scared, but soon his fear changed to excitement. To die would be an awfully big adventure, he said. Around him, the lagoon grew quieter and quieter. Peter heard the mermaids saying goodnight to one another and shutting their doors to their coral caves. He heard the water gurgle greedily as it rose to nibble on the rock. Then he saw something white floating on the water. He thought it a piece of paper, or perhaps a piece of Michael's kite, but as he continued to stare at it, he realized that it had more definite sense of purpose than a mere piece of paper would have. It seemed to be fighting the tide instead of just going with the flow. Peter found himself rooting for the white streak to win. The piece of paper was actually the Neverbird, still sitting on her now floating nest. She was trying desperately to reach Peter. Although he had teased her in the past, he had also given the orders that her nest not be disturbed. For this reason, and perhaps because she was above all things a mother, she would disturb her nest herself to save his life. Swim to the nest, she called to him. I am too tired to row all the way to you. But Peter didn't speak bird language and couldn't understand her, and even near death he could be very impatient. What are you quacking about? Peter asked rudely. I don't understand a word. Why, I never, the Neverbird said, and she tried again. Same to you, Peter replied, whatever you just said. Remembering that he was only a child, the maternal Neverbird took a deep breath and made one last push to row herself to the rock. Upon reaching it, she flew up, leaving her eggs behind to make room for Peter. Finally realizing her meaning, Peter waved his thank you to the Neverbird. Looking down, however, he saw that the nest was not big enough for both him and her two large eggs. He lifted the eggs up, and the Neverbird covered her eyes with her feathers, afraid of what Peter might do. On the rock next to Peter was a waterproof hat, broad and wide, which Starkey had left behind. Peter put the eggs into the hat and set them afloat. With a final happy quack, the Neverbird swooped down and settled herself on top of her eggs. Peter got himself into the Neverbird's old nest and waved goodbye and pushed off. He and the nest and Wendy and her kite arrived back at the cave at nearly the same time. Oh, how everyone rejoiced. The party went on until Wendy realized how late it was, and she told everyone it was past their bedtime. The boys tried to stall, insisting that they were injured and needed slings and bandages, but Wendy would have none of it, and she sent them to bed. Here's Peter floating in the Neverbird's nest, and the Neverbird floating in the hat. Chapter 11, The Happy Family. We're getting near to the end. It's getting exciting. They're having lots of adventures. See you next week.